zaniest characters onto the big screen for the first time and gave each one a makeover in the bargain. While some stayed closer to their comic appearances than others, there were a few squad members who were left completely transformed. Here's how the Suicide Squad should really look. Captain Boomerang. Just like in the comics, Captain Boomerang is not really an upstanding guy. Aesthetically though, the Captain's live-action portrayal diverges significantly from his original form. Now, there are probably no more ridiculous outfits than his original Boomerang print tunic and tiny hat, so new Boomerang is a welcome departure. The on-screen version is based more closely on Boomer's modern costume, so they both wear a similar grey-blue peacoat and both have a knack for throwing boomerangs, which, for the record, are the worst weapons of all time. I can't believe I said that as an Australian.
Oh no! It's coming back this way!
That throwing stick stun of yours has boomeranged on her.
But Jai Courtney's version has urbanized clothing and jewelry. His hair is not the orange of his comics counterpart, but he does occasionally wear the knit cap. Courtney also extended the character's usual sideburns into fuller facial hair and snuck in a little eye makeup to boot. El Diablo. The fiery essence of Chato Santana, or El Diablo, was definitely not lost in translation, but there were still some noticeable style changes with his ink. In the comics, he has a swirl designs that emphasizes his flame theme. With Jay Hernandez in the live-action role, the character's skin art is changed to a scattered slew of new symbols that paint him as a true tough guy. Among his new markings are hash marks on his eyebrows and a skeletal teeth design featured on his upper lip, as well as a Grim Reaper scythe on his forehead to show he's in the business of death dealing, even whilst on his journey of repentance. Katana. Superheroine Katana has worn multiple costumes over her various TV appearances, but when she first appeared in the comics in 1983, she had a red and yellow costume with ridiculous pointed shoulders and fur-topped shoes. You know, the least stealthy martial arts costume possible. Over time, she toned it down into a red and gold armor deal with a domino mask, but it's Katana's completely revamped New 52 look that appeared on screen. Karen Fukuhara's rendition of Katana still changes things up in a few key ways. Her screen costume is a bit more conservative than the skin-tight leotards Katana wears in the comics, instead opting for a loose-fitting plain t-shirt and pants. She also doesn't have traditional samurai shoulder guards, instead wearing a varsity-style jacket featuring floral tributes to her heritage. Even with these changes, Katana is still pretty recognizable. Slipknot. One of the most significant design departures in Suicide Squad can be found in Adam Beach's version of Slipknot. The movie's costumes crew almost totally dumped the character's comic appearance. A full, muscle-hugging bodysuit with bizarre side windows, loose sleeves, and a mask. In the movie, Slipknot got a much more militaristic suit. Gone was the corny noose design on his chest. Instead, he was decked out in useful utility gear and a built-in rappelling harness. And his hair was tied back to look like... what else? Ropes. Can't say the guy doesn't have a theme. It's too bad he was only on screen for about 3 minutes. Rick Flag. Joel Kinnaman's interpretation of Rick Flag is relatively faithful to the modern version of the character, but there are still a handful of small style changes. As a member of the US Army Special Forces, the comics version of Rick Flag keeps a close shave most of the time, whereas the movie version has a little more going on under his nose. Kinnaman's also a living, breathing human, so he's a little less beefy than the Flag familiar to DC readers. However, just like his paper-bound predecessor in the role, Kinnaman's take tended to wear the same army green jumpsuit and battlefield-grade arms, and, of course, the low-guard buzz cut that serves as a not-so-subtle salute to his military service. Amanda Waller. Just as in the comics, Amanda Waller is the tough assembler of Task Force X, who, in actress Viola Davis's words, is a big, powerful black woman, hard and ready to pick up a gun and shoot anyone at will. Unlike many of the other characters in Suicide Squad, Davis' version of Waller bypassed DC Comics' reboot New 52 rendition of her character and went all the way back to her earlier, more business-oriented look, like in her 1980s Legends debut. Her pearls and hairdo, for example, were pretty close replicas of some of her earliest appearances. The Joker. While Jared Leto's version of the Joker adopted some of the comics version's physical characteristics, it was also a new take on the character in several noticeable ways. While Leto did keep the Joker's bright green do, he slicked it down, instead of the more unkempt approach often favored by the classic Joker. Leto's Joker ushered in the era of the character with grilled teeth and threatening tattoos. And while we don't get to see the Joker's bare back, set photos and statues based on the movie revealed a dragon tattoo that looks pretty similar to the one Joker has in All-Star Batman and Robin. Even his signature purple coat got a biker-friendly update. Rather than the playful suit styling of old, he had a shiny alligator skin number and went shirtless beneath, just in case people wanted to see that he wrote his own name on his stomach. You know, just in case he forgot or just got lost in a mall. Harley Quinn. Margot Robbie hit a home run as the bat-wielding Harley Quinn, but the character is hardly recognizable as the one that debuted in Batman, the animated series. The old Harley Quinn looks like a straight-up jester, which we got to see on screen during Suicide Squad for one hot second, but it's the later versions of the character that lent a great deal to Harley's movie look. Robbie is a postmodern punk complete with colourful pigtails, messy makeup, tattoos, and a getup that should appeal to cheerleaders and biker chicks alike. The pigtails are borrowed specifically from Harley's appearance in the video game Batman Arkham City, and the tattered t-shirt is pure injustice Gods Among Us. And we can thank her New 52 solo title for those shorts. Killer Croc. The appearance and origin story of Killer Croc have changed so many times over the years that there's really not one true Croc. But the guy we see in Suicide Squad is surprisingly true to his very first full appearance in Batman number 358, where he's just a guy with a skin condition. During his first appearance, he showed up in a standard mobster trench coat and hat ensemble. In Suicide Squad, he's wearing a hoodie, which is pretty much the modern equivalent. As time goes by in the comics, Croc slowly devolves into a more brutish, animalistic villain, sprouting a tail and long reptilian snout. So while the cinematic counterpart seems to be a relatively regular guy now, the future isn't looking too bright. Sorry, dude. Deadshot. It's hard to hide a face as marketable as Will Smith's, so it's no wonder the Suicide Squad version of Deadshot doesn't often wear his trademark mask. When he does put it on, the on-screen version flips the script and places his fancy sight over Will's left eye, whereas comics Deadshot favors the right. It's a relatively small difference compared to the big picture, however, on screen he wears a uniform that looks like riot gear and his usual red and silver costume is nowhere to be seen. Also, Floyd Lawton has traditionally been a white guy with a doofy little mustache. Honestly, we preferred the Fresh Prince in this instance. All of this, however, is light years away from Deadshot's first appearance in 1950, where he looked like a stage magician, top hat and all. He tangled with Batman once and disappeared until 1977, when he took on his more modern look, which is still nothing like what we see on screen. Enchantress. In the comics, Enchantress receives her powers after wandering off into a creepy room at a mansion party and talking to a fat magic head in a giant chair. Because why not? After blonde bobhead June Moon transforms into Enchantress, she looks like a standard sexy Halloween witch. Green pointed hat, long cape, miniskirt, and thigh-high boots. Later, as she loses control of her powers and turns a little evil, she dons an emerald green halter top and gold band fitted around her head, with occasional returns to her old school look. In Suicide Squad, Enchantress is an archaeologist who gets her powers from an ancient relic. Whatever got under her skin in that creepy old temple also gave her a complete gross makeover, making her far more dark and grungy than her comics counterpart, only cleaning up a bit when her powers are at full force. The on-screen Enchantress, played by Cara Delevingne, wears a hunter green swimsuit and crescent headdress, a weird shadow of her comics counterpart. And for some reason, the filmmakers decided to make her look kinda like Pigpen from Charlie Brown. Good grief. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to watch more videos like the one you just saw, and leave